Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Attention Span Labs. I'm your host, Michael DiBaggio, and I'm coming to you today, recording this anyway, on April 9th, 2023, which means for my brothers in Christ who are on the Western calendar, Happy Easter. Christ is risen. If you're Orthodox like I am, it's Palm Sunday, and we still have Holy Week to go for. Our Pascha is about a week away yet, so getting very excited for that. And I want to wish everyone who's watching either a happy Holy Week or a happy Easter. So this is a video that has been long overdue. Been several months, if you subscribe to my channel, that I put out a new video. And really is, nothing's really going on. I've been hobbying more so than ever before. I've actually, I painted well over 100 miniatures, made some new pieces of terrain, stuff like that. But I just wasn't interested in, making videos and uploading them. But I figure I owe you guys some insight I have into a very good old game, which you can see in front of you, Star Wars Miniatures Battles. And we're going to talk about that. I've been getting back into it, played it at a couple of conventions. The HMGS conventions, the Historical Miniature Gaming Society, and I've been getting back into it in a big way. This is my first excursion into 25mm gaming in a number of years. So I'll have this to talk about. This is just an introduction. We'll do an unboxing of some old sets, tell you a bit about what I like about the game, why you should play it, because I think it's very good for war gamers, especially newer war gamers who are just getting involved in the hobby. So we get this idea that, well, they gotta play the new thing. It's the D&D 5e effect or whatever the hell it is at now. They only play the newest edition or the Warhammer 9th, excuse me, 10th edition. And you get in these cycles with these big gaming companies where they want you to where they put out a new edition, and you're supposed to just stop whatever you're doing, change your armies if they're customized, and get rid of the hand flamers on your Space Marines, and or put the hand flamers back on your Space Marines, and buy all new rule sets and starter sets, new dice and all this crap. And I don't like that. I think the hobby is already expensive enough as it is, and it could be much more enjoyable to stick with what you have. Which is not to say that no new rules or new games are good, because there are new and good games coming out. But you don't have to chase the newest thing, right? Don't be a consumer, as I've said many times before. You're not beholden to buy stuff just because they tell you to, or because you're triggered in this dopamine hit because you want to go out and blow money. You can blow money on new miniatures. You can buy a 3D printer. You could buy more paint, whatever. But you don't have to go out every 2 or 3 years when they decide to create a new game. As in, this game, you could say it wasn't really replaced. It was done by West End Games, the creators of the Star Wars role-playing game, the D6 role-playing game. And then they went out of business. So this wasn't really replaced by Legion or Rebel Assault or whatever it was. Not Rebel Assault. Whatever that other game was that had cool miniatures but wasn't in Legion scale. But anyway, this is a very good game. You can still get the miniatures for this. You can use compatible miniatures. You can print your own, of course. But we'll talk about this. We'll go through the books a bit, and I'll unbox some of these old miniatures. I've actually been waiting to unbox them for a while because I wanted to show you them on camera. I know people like unboxing videos for some reason. Sorry about the glare there, but and I'll show you. I painted quite a bit of other Star Wars miniatures that I already opened and that I've had actually since I was in 7th or 8th grade, and show you ones I painted. It was very enjoyable to go back and paint them and play some games again. And I will be hosting a game of this at Historicon in July in Lancaster. And I'll be running in this book, the Hammer of Destiny scenario. This is from the Imperial Entanglements. I'm running the famed scenario with the Hell's Hammer's hover tank regiment and the disabled tank, which I'll have more details about that as we go forward. But all right, let's go. Let me take you back to a time when Star Wars was good, and when people liked Star Wars, unlike today when Star Wars is a joke and a dead franchise in the parlance of the marketers. And I know some of you in the comments are going to tell me, wait, Mike, Andor was really good. You got to check out Andor. And I agree. I saw Andor. I thought it was pretty much the best thing that the new Star Wars has ever come out with. And it's comparable, though very different in tone. Very much worth watching, unlike any of the other Star Wars movies that came out, or any of the Star Wars TV shows, which are crap. All of them. Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett was awful. Obi-Wan was awful. Like they were so bad. Like Mandalorian, my thoughts on that were, I watched the first episode, it was dumb. Second episode, I was like, oh, it's pretty good. Third episode, I was like, oh, that's a good episode. And the fourth episode was dumb. Fifth episode was okay. You go back and forth with it. It was a seesaw. So I watched the whole thing. Then we got in the second season, and man, that was dumb. But I wasn't prepared for how awful the other ones were. Before anybody complains now, I do not pay for Disney Plus. I get it for free, which I suspect is actually most of their, or a large enough segment of their audience is getting it for free or discounted. But I gave up on the other ones 2 episodes in, and I didn't one or 2 episodes in. I didn't want to watch them anymore. But Andor was good, so if you can see it, if you want to download it, torrent it, enjoy. Anyway, back to the 80s and 90s when Star Wars was still cool, and mostly you had the old movies to go on. Everybody knows about the Star Wars D6 RPG by West End Games. Now, Star Wars Miniatures Battles was actually made to coincide with the role-playing game. It has basically your soldiers have almost the same stats. It's a bit stripped down, so they don't have to do things like carousing or gambling, but they do have technical stats like mechanical repair and hacking and things like that, because you can actually do complex objectives in the middle of a game where you have to you have to slice your way into the bunker like on Endor, or you have to repair a tank. You have to you can like lay mines and set explosives, and you can do like first aid surgery and stuff in the field. So that's very cool. And it was made, it's one of the few games I can think of that has a very similar relationship to original D&D and Chainmail, in that it was made, D&D, of course, the original, what we now call role-playing games or fantasy adventure games, evolved out of war games. And there are quite a few war games that have role-playing game elements, and of course all role-playing games have war game elements to them. Well, just about all. So, but this is nice because this was made, maybe not explicitly, but the way I see it and the way I've been using it, because I also run a Star Wars D6 RPG on the weekend sometimes, is that this is a great way to segue from the standard RPG, which is you have your theater of your mind adventures. But then when you want to get into like a larger combat, almost say mass combat, but it doesn't have to be companies versus companies or anything like that, but it could 10-20 guys, and you want to set it up with you can play this and very easily transfer your hero, your player characters to this game, and they're called heroes, and they'll have force points and they'll have some more interesting abilities than the basic rank and file troops. In this game, force points don't necessarily represent a Jedi or a Sith, but it represents the main characters, the way like whenever Han or Leia are shot, or Chewie, they're narrowly missed, or Leia gets shot in the hand, or Luke gets shot in the hand. So that it has that sort of element about it. And anyway, I highly recommend the game for that alone. The other reason I want to recommend this to you, it's a bit of a more crunchy game, but it's not so crunchy that you have to spend a lot of time reading it. But there's in this book, this is the main book, that there's a basic section and there is an advanced section, so you can step your way into it. And I don't know, it's really good, plays well. There's a couple things I don't like about it, but I'm not even going to get into them in this video, I don't think. But generally, it plays very well. It's a cool system. It has alternating activation, but within phases, so it was a bit ahead of its time. It wasn't like an I go, you go system, this came out in 1991, as you can see. Maybe you can't see. Yeah, it has some things that were ahead of its time, and it stands up to the test of time well. It uses all 6-sided dice. But anyway, the other, besides it being just a generally good system and very well integrated with the RPG, the reason I want to recommend it to you is because you can get it for free. You'll have to pay for the hardbound books, I guess, but the D6 Holocron website, which I will link in the comments below, has the download of pretty much all the West End Games Star Wars books. They're in PDF form. I know that everybody likes PDF. I prefer hard copy myself to have on hand. You can download them for free and print them out. So it has all the RPG books, but it also has all of these miniature battle books, in which there are 3 of them. There's the Star Wars Miniatures Battles main rulebook, the Star Wars Miniatures Battles Companion, which is the first supplement for it, and this has several scenarios. It has revised rules in errata, and it also has vehicle rules, which were mostly missing in the RPG, or sorry, from the original rulebook. And then it has Imperial Entanglements, which is almost entirely a book of scenarios, and there's some very good, classic, very fun scenarios. So, oops, someone's calling me, so I'm going to cut this video short right now. Okay, sorry for the interruption. My lovely wife called me to come downstairs to help with the kids. We're all a little sick right now. Have a small head cold or hay fever. The timing of it is auspiciously coinciding with the blossoming of all the flowers and the trees and the pollen outside, and the grass that is now growing too rapidly. So I think it may be allergies, but not responding to the usual allergy treatment. But anyway, just tucked some of the kids in. Anyway, back to this game. Let's talk about the rules briefly. I'm going to go through so you can take a look at the main book. This is in black and white, lavishly photographed for the time, for 1991. This book came out, this particular edition came out in 1993. I bought this in Walden Books. Remember Walden Books? It was actually the first war game, miniature war game I got after Battle Masters. It was like the first like adult style war game, which didn't use cards or anything like that. So I have a very fond, nostalgic memories of it. So here is a squad data sheet. You can see it has your movement rates, your walk rate and run rate. A little bit different than what you're used to. It's not like 6 and 12. It's, in this case, the basic is 8 and 13. You can see that if you're familiar with the Star Wars role-playing game, you can see the skills there, and have it's broken down in categories. Basically, your dexterity skills, your dexterity main stat with your blaster, artillery, grenade, melee combat, knowledge has survival roles in it. Mechanics has beast riding. Perception has command, search, sneak. Strength has brawling and swimming. Technology has demolition and first aid. And all those skills can be used in the game. So yeah, you got your stealth, your infiltration, you got your emergency medicine, you got your blowing up stuff, you got your animal handling, melee combat, shooting. So most of it is combat oriented, but some of the other stuff does come in handy, as I mentioned already. Also under mechanical aptitude is the ground vehicle, hover vehicle, and repulsor lift operation, which is not listed in this one because they don't have that skill at all. But your tank crews or your ATST crews, whatever you have, are going to have that. List your weapons, damage. Has short, medium, and long range, which set the base difficulty. So your base difficulty of the shot is your range based on the type of weapon you have, and it's modified by whether the enemy's in light cover, medium cover, heavy cover. It's modified by the in the advanced game weather environment, whether or not you moved, things like that. So the way, and then down the bottom you have the morale system. You start out at there's several stages of it. There's four broad categories. Your steady morale, like you're doing okay, even if you're taking a little bit of fire. Then you're shaken, you start having penalties. Demoralized is you start having severe penalties, and broken is basically you drop your weapons and flee the table. And you can see this EVA down here. This marks the level of morale you're at. You can see there's 4 levels within steady, and if you're elite, you start at level 7, so you would have to be knocked down 4 times to get the shaken. Basically fail 4 morale tests. If you're a veteran, you start at 6, average start at 5, so you have to fail fewer morale tests to get down lower. And morale is very important in this game. You take morale tests based on certain weapons. There's certain, there's force powers that can affect your morale, and you take an increasingly difficult morale test every time you suffer casualties. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think it's, in some sense it's a little bit insufficient because it doesn't represent pinning that doesn't cause casualties. I could be wrong, but it's mainly based on the number of casualties you take. Casualties are both wounded. In this game, you can be wounded and not dead, or dead. Wounded characters take additional penalties, so forth. But the way that this rule system works is you roll 1d6 and add your skill to it. A particularly important one is the command one, because the game starts. You roll initiative, and you have your highest command skill with the unit, which is probably your platoon commander, and then you add the 6-sided dice value to that, and the highest one gets to go first in each phase. Now there's multiple phases. There's a movement phase, there's a shooting combat phase, there's a close combat phase, there's a morale phase, and there's a special actions phase. Special actions would be where you would repair the tank, or call in supporting artillery fire, or hack the terminal or whatever, or repair the droid, rewire the droid. You can actually do that in this game. So the way it works, I said, it's alternating activation. The side who won initiative goes first, and then so on. And then, so you would move a unit, and then your opponent would move a unit, and so on until all of them are activated or you pass. And then you go on to the fire combat phase, and so on down the line, and you alternate like that. So it's alternating within different phases. Facing is super important in this game. Your troops, not just with vehicles, but with the infantry, they take they're at a penalty if they're they can't shoot at all if they're attacked from behind and so forth, and they have to aim what they're they can only shoot what they're actually able to hit in a 90-degree arc in front of them. So you do have to be careful with that. If you're not used to that in the game, you have to make sure that when you're moving them, you are covering. It's interesting because it makes the table more resemble a real life tactical environment if you're doing it correctly, because you have some elements of the squad, covering left flank, some looking ahead, covering the right flank if you don't know where the enemy is, or if you're going to be attacked from multiple sides, or you can choose. You have to choose everybody to aim in one direction to pour all their fire at certain enemies. You can split fire in this game. With Overwatch, which is in this game is called opportunity fire, which is where you are allowed, if you didn't fire already, you can fire in the moving phase when someone else moves, kind of like an ambush and bolt action, or Overwatch and older editions of 40K. You can see there's lots of nice diagrams that tell you about the impediments on the terrain, the walls, and so forth. Hills are important. There's all kinds of tables for cover and so forth. There are lots of templates in the back. There's grenades, proton torpedoes, mortars, all kinds of neat stuff like this. Talked a bit about the morale before. Your troops can take a lot of tests as they get whittled down by casualties, and and enemy actions. The lower quality they are, the tougher time they'll have. There is an introductory scenario. There's a very helpful table here that lists the a wide variety of terrain types and their impediments on movement and fire. And then you get to, as I said, there's another example of the squad sheet. Basically you'll have a basic weapon, and then sometimes they will have an addition, like a specialist weapon, like an E-web or proton torpedo launcher. They'll have a mortar or something like that. One or two guys will have have a crew on that. Generally, it's simpler to calculate the dice you're using rather than say bolt action or conflict 47, where like your German squad, you have 2 guys have SMGs, 4 guys have assault rifles. The others 4 guys have bolt action rifles, but then 2 of them have Panzerfaust, and you're firing after the you have 9 different kinds of dice to roll. Generally, it's not like that in this game. As I said, it's broken down. There's advanced rules for equipment, like there's flamethrowers, and there's actually nerve gas and stun grenades and smoke grenades and illumination grenades. There's plank gas that breaks down enemy armor. There's freeze grenades, which is kind of like a cryoban, which is kind of like it does damage to people. It's like an instant carbon freeze. Lightsaber, of course, EMP guns, non-lethal minefields. Spacesuits, med packs, targeting sensors, or macro binoculars, environment suit, because there are rules for fighting in atmospheres that are not breathable or corrosive atmospheres. There's a whole section on creature combat. Excuse me. Excuse me again. All right, last time. There's rules for dewbacks, tauntauns, banthas, creation thumpers, rancors, wampa, whatever. There's stats for them in here. A little bit of the monster manual. There's special effects like mud and snow and darkness, extreme heat, extreme cold, high winds. It shows you how high gravity, and so forth. There's rules for buildings and and there's a couple more advanced scenarios in here, and it tells you about figures and scenery and how this is a really cool part of the book, which was essential, I think, at the time to new people who are before the age of YouTube, where you got into the game and you didn't really know how to make terrain, so it gives suggestions on how to make things like moisture evaporators or Tatooine dwellings, and how to attach your figures to the bases and how to paint them. Basic stuff, but then it shows you there's diagrams. You can see there's lots of lovely diagrams in this book of how to make modular terrain tiles, make your own. They actually recommend using GeoHex in here. This is when I first was exposed to GeoHex. Some of you have seen my GeoHex video. This is, you can just buy them, or you can make them yourself with like a foam board and MDF and grass mat, and you make hills and so forth. Make your own trees out of wires and so forth. And then there's a handy section in the back which give your Imperial Army, different types of Stormtroopers, mercenaries, bounty hunters, war droids, Tusken Raiders and Hoth troopers, and Ewoks, standard rebel fleet troopers, and there's some of the beasts. And then you have a quick reference in the back, which is actually pretty good. I use it. I skim the rules whenever I want to remember how to play, and then I just read this, and I'm able to get with it. It tells you like the damage ratings, all of the conditions that affect fire. Gives you a procedure for all the different types of combat. This goes on for a couple pages, and then you have there's droid damage table or artillery strike resolution tables. Here's some pages that you can copy, print out. List of miniatures in the back. You see I circled several of these from back in the day. And there's some, you have to cut these out. These are nice templates you can mount on cardstock. I like templates. I don't like that games have gotten away from templates. And then there's lots of counters, because you will have to mark your troops, so whether or not they're allowed to know whether they're allowed to fire or not, because they already activated, whether they have penalties or bonuses to them, whether they're wounded, and so forth. So that's it. That's look through the game. We're not going to look through the other books now, but I am going to show you first some of the minis I painted, which includes some of the ones that I got with the original box set, and ones that my mom and dad bought for me back when I was in 7th grade. I stripped them all and repainted them because they were horrible. Like the Stormtroopers were dipped in latex white house paint, which certainly covered them well, but like obviously obscured most of the detail. But I stripped them all and repainted them, so I'm going to show you them. And a lot of these are original Star Wars Miniature Battles minis, and then also some Ground Zero games, which they also recommend to take a look at. Ground Zero games, John Tuffley's Star Grunt 25mm vehicles, especially, they recommend for use in here, and also compatible miniatures. So this was written back in the time when like miniature companies, even like big names like West End Games, when game companies were like, hey, we don't make everything, and wargaming is not it's not a walled garden, right? You don't have, it's not an ecosystem. You don't have to use only miniatures and certain things. And Star Wars Galaxy is very vast and it's ill-defined, and you can use, lizard men. There's actually, I think, the Stormtroopers fighting lizard men somewhere in here. There they are. It says assorted lizard man figures by Grenadier, Ralparth, and Martian Metals, and Hut by Gallia Reproductions. Like they weren't shy about advertising, other companies. You can see what people that started, in the mid 2000s or whatever or later, just don't get that. The Warhammer experience where they throw you out of the store if you use 3D printed parts or parts from other manufacturers, right? Like that wasn't the thing. Even in Warhammer, it wasn't the thing back then. But much better time. So let's go ahead and I'll show you some minis that I painted. So their bases, they come with molded on bases. And it does, I followed the steps in there. It recommends that you use a 2-part epoxy to adhere them, and it does work much better than super glue. But then the problem is they're like a base on a base. So then what I did is I used either Sculpt the Mold or, lumped up glue and sand, or what really worked good was, what worked the best was I actually kneaded green stuff to make it a bit lumpier, but raise it up so that it doesn't look like they're on a pedestal, and then cover the rest in flock, cover the rest in sand, baking soda flock, Sculpt the Mold, whatever it was, painted it, and then flocked it. So, all right. Like I said, a bunch of these I had originally from the game, and other ones I bought later on, more recently, like a couple months ago. So let's go through them. Let's take a look at them. Start with the Imperial Army Troopers. These are my most recently painted ones. You can see, as I think you can see, there's sort of, sorry about that, sort of limited in terms of poses. But there are a variety of them. Yeah, it's not a very good shot, is it? Uh-oh. I see a date on my camera. Boy, I really hope that it's not showing up. Let me pause this and get right back to you and see if I can remove that. All right, we're back, and I've removed that annoying date time. It was showing up in the corner. I don't know how that got on there. I was using this to live stream at my church for a while, and I don't know if someone was messing around with the settings. I don't know why you'd want that ever on there, unless you're documenting evidence or something. Anyway, actually, let's put this on a... This Imperial Navy Trooper, okay. So you can see these guys are will you focus? Yeah. So I painted them like the Solo Troopers. that was the name. Yeah, that was the name of the movie, Solo. Right, though, instead of the normal gray, they're not like the gray indoor troopers. They are the same troopers, right? But they're in something closer to camouflage. Boy, I wish this would focus a little better. No, that's a shame. Let's see what I can do here. Does it focus better in here? There's one with a repeating blaster. Anyway, I really like their two-tone, like green mud jumper. I think that's what they're called when they were fighting on Mimban. Does anybody remember that movie? I saw it. Again, I didn't pay for it because I don't give money to people who hate me. But Solo wasn't too bad. I would have enjoyed it if it wasn't about Han Solo, if you know what I mean. If they said it was about somebody else, maybe you can see them. So I have 9 of these guys. Why 9, not 10? That's just what I was able to buy. I have Imperial Naval Troopers as well. The Death Star Troopers, as you may know them. I have an Imperial Officer with them as well. The black uniform is I don't actually know why some of them have like the green gray uniforms and some of them have black uniforms. I don't know if that's a distinction between, like, they dress the same, so I don't know if they're if that represents different branches of the military. But General Veers wore the same color. Here's a green one, green gray one, which I just used German Dunkelgrau to paint. I think that caught it on pretty much exactly. He wore the same. General Veers wore the same thing as, like, same color uniform as Admiral Piet Moff Tarkin. So I don't know. My idea with these, I did have a notion that I was painting these with some sort of systematic. I was trying to understand why they had these. I was looking at their rank cylinders and everything, and there's lots of information on officer ranks, but almost none on enlisted. So my idea was that the black ones are Stormtrooper officers. And I treat the Stormtroopers as like a separate corps in the military. They're kind of like the SS, if you will. They're like fanatical, outside. They operate in conjunction with the Army and Navy, but they're sort of outside that chain of command. They get more money and better weapons, maybe. I don't know. I guess it depends on your how much you value Stormtroopers. There's Darth Vader. Nope. So Stormtroopers, when I have another packed open, I will have three squads of 8, but there's a lot more poses that I have in these ones. See, some of them have heavy repeating rifles. Or, sorry, I guess they're not, in this game they're like medium repeaters or something, and they're basically like machine gun troops. The Sand Troopers, you see they have their backpacks, but since they integrate Sand Troopers pretty regularly with, even in the books, there's with regular Stormtroopers, I made them because of the shoulder pauldrons. One is the red one is a squad leader, NCO, sergeant, something like that, and the orange one is the fire team leader, the junior NCO will be a corporal or something. So if they have to split the squads, the orange one will command the rifle element or whatever, the scout element, and the NCO will command the main group that has the repeating rifle and so forth. Some more different poses of them. They have very good detail. I did a lot of the line work with the Gundam panel liners, but some of them I had to do with brushes. They're washed dirty up, so they're not gleaming white. They have some some residue on them, like they have actually been out in the field. Here are the Scout Troopers. Unfortunately, except for the ones that ride speeder bikes, the Scout Troopers only have this one pose, but they have like their little light blaster rifle, blaster carbine. Let me tell you, you think you know what parts of the Stormtrooper uniform are black and white until you start painting them, and you're like, that doesn't look right, but I don't know why. So did lots of photo references. So those are more in here, but they're all basically the same. So those are the Imperials, and I'll come back with the Rebels in a second. Okay, so the Rebels troopers I have are a mixture of the Rebel Fleet Troopers. Here's a female one, it's a ponytail, and Endor Troopers, the so-called Rebel Commandos. And so I painted these as a mix. They're going to be in one unit, or I didn't want to paint them exactly like the ones you've seen in the movies. So I based them off. Well, I have the Rogue One photo book, like the reference manual, and it shows basically all the side characters who aren't named in the movie but who go on the raid and Scarif. And I did not copy them exactly, but I took inspiration with the different mix of colors, like the dulls. So there are the muted colors with a splash of something strong, like blue or red on something and they're all a little different. Like some have blue pants, some of them have, even if they have the same equipment, they have one blue pants with a brown shirt and light gray pants, blue vest, and other ones will have like they basically will have the same color helmets, but signifying that they're a rebel force. They're equipping themselves. They're getting they're non-standardized, and they're specialists, and so they have whatever they can get their hands on. Let's see. I see the camera showing up that nasty cut on my finger. Always wear, by the way, folks, if you don't have them, get cutting gloves, because I cut my finger almost to the bone a few days ago with my Olfa knife as I was cutting out some foam PVC bases. And the thing is, you have these gloves and you don't need them because you're like, you don't use them because you think you don't need them. You think you're too good, you're invincible, but it's not the case. Another female trooper. A lot of female rebels mixed in with these. Here's a Mon Calamari trooper. I painted him like Admiral Radiss's troops. Hard to tell how in focus these are. Hopefully they'll look better on the TV screen. This is I think a junior student of the Force. Not exactly a rebel trooper, but they have miniatures for every one of the basic RPG character classes, the templates. Here's an old Jedi, or a mature Jedi, I guess. If he's represents the failed Jedi character class. What else you got here? Don't know who this is. Don't know what that's supposed to be. There's an engineer. I gave him purple skin. Put the purple skin and the yellow thing around his neck. He looks like Sinestro. That was not intentional, especially with a little beard. Yeah, so there you go. There's my Grenadier, the West End Games Rebels. Now I've augmented them because I couldn't get enough of them cheaply with Ground Zero Games combination, New Anglian Confederation Troopers, and also some of their other lines. These are just the ones I painted. Well, here's an old senatorial. Alright. So these are Ground Zero Games figures. These are New Anglian Confederation troops. I also am using some Eurasian Solar Union troops because they had come with ponchos and so forth. But I'm painting them the same way. Here's a prone one. painting them in a very similar way, so they can, again, they have a mix of equipment, and it's going to look slightly different to amplify the fact that they're equipping themselves, or these are guerrillas, paramilitaries with whatever they can get their hands on. But they're not obviously not exact match to the Rebel fleet troopers or anything. There's a couple of Ground Zero Games females. Okay, these are 25mm, similar basing. This one is actually the miniature representing my wife's RPG character, Valencia Stella Mustang, who is like a spoiled noble that went out and joined the rebellion. She's one of the Ground Zero Games Combat Babes figures, who I think are based off of a couple models from Sci-Fi Supply, according to the old GZG catalog. She has a nice butt, as you can see. Yeah, look at that. All right. Guy with some harder armor. So these can actually represent different grades of armor. It's not just like no armor or Stormtrooper armor. There's even variations of Stormtrooper armor in this game. It's a 3D printed Gonk droid. They have 3D printed R2 unit or R5, whatever, D4 unit. I have these dinosaur-looking things. I don't forget what they're from. I honestly don't remember. I thought they were from Maelstrom's Edge, but now I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't remember where I got them. But we call these Gronks. They're like a sentient species of like bipedal bird brontosaurus types, and they're one of the alien races that have thrown in with the rebellion. Enjoyed painting these. And these are mixture. All these are a mixture of like regular paints, contrast paints. I was trying to just get a good. They really do look better, I think, than you're going to see them on camera. I have the fear that you're not going to see these in great detail on here, but they look really. A miniature looks its best when it's 3 feet away, looking down on a table and it's covered in terrain. When the table's covered in terrain and they're in their natural environment. These are not going to win any contests you're not going to win the Golden Demon or whatever. But I enjoyed painting them. They're fun to paint. They look very nice. They have, very good. The visual appeal, even if they're not Star Wars miniatures, they look great. And it harkens back to a time when Star Wars was very big and ill-defined, and you didn't see the same alien races all the time, so you could throw in weird aliens whenever you wanted to, and it looks right. Even different humans with different weapons. Not everybody uses the same weapons, but so let's take a look at the actual miniatures. We'll do a quick unboxing of these, so I can actually build them. And let's start with. This says set 1, not for resale. So wow, I guess this is I got these from Noble Knight Games. This was on discount, but these look like Cantina aliens. So this must have been a promotional set from way back, maybe like 87, 88. Because the miniatures actually came out before the Miniatures Battles game. So anyway, let's pop these open and see what we got here. You can see them in their native environment. Who's that? Not Muftak? It's not a Wookiee. Yeah, I think that's his name. I don't actually know all the Cantina aliens' names, but I think that's a Muftak. Is that a Reese? I don't know. Yeah, there might be Jabba's Palace aliens, not sure. No, these are from the Cantina. There's the little guy, little rat guy that was like begging for. He has to use 2 hands to hold his cup at the Cantina. I have no idea what he's called. I think that's Grenadier, the spy that informed the Stormtroopers about Luke and Obi-Wan and the droids. Oh, that's a... Was that Laxivrak, the Shestavanian Wolfman? Yeah. That's cool. I didn't know I had him. Oh, and here's Satan. I forget what this guy's called. The guy that Richard Pryor thought was the devil in that skit. When he was in the cantina. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. I think it was on some comedy show, maybe Saturday Night Live. They had like the Star Wars characters there. What's his name? I forget. Well, I know a lot of them, but these are cantina aliens. The nice thing about this game is that you do a lot of fighting in like open public areas, and you can have crews of bounty hunters and scum and villainy supplementing your forces, or you can going out to it. It's not just the armed might of the Empire versus the rebels. This is Bounty Hunters 2. Boy, it seems a shame, even to me, who doesn't like keeping packaging at all. I'm not a Coomer with all these boxes of unopened Funko Pops in the background. But here, I have no idea who this is. I don't think this is a real, quote unquote, I think this is like one of their generic bounty hunter characters. It's a female with some kind of pole. I don't know what that is. That could be a very large blaster rifle. I have no idea what that is, what it's supposed to be. But you can make it whatever you want, right? Could be a close combat weapon. Could be a, she's got a little cape, a mantlet on. Here's our friend Bosk, Trandoshan. One of my friends in the RPG plays a Trandoshan named Skursk, who is an orange skinned Trandoshan, so I'm painting him up. And this is Dengar. Could also be any kind of generic scum hitman that has a head wound. Whatever is going on with Dengar, why he wears that, it looks like a bandage around his head. I guess could be a bandana. It's weird that he wears it to keep the heat and sun off him when he's on the Executor, though. Not sure what to say about that. And there you go. Alright. What else we got? Mos Eisley Space Station Pack 40449. Oh, there's another Grenadier and another Double Man. So I have two, but there's someone else in here. Let's see who these are. Yep. Devil Man or Devil Man Lady. It's a joke. Yep, Grenadier, and then you already saw him. And I believe this figure represents who they call the character class in the game called the Kid. He's obviously dressed like Farmer Luke, but he's like a little teenager, and he has an M60. Yeah, no, I guess that's supposed to be, I don't know, or an MG42. He has, I guess that's supposed to be an Imperial repeat. It's interesting that they gave, it's interesting that the Rebellion uses child soldiers. I don't know what to say about that. Yeah, he's in a boonie hat, like Frontier stuff. He could be like I don't know, he could just be a short man, but it's definitely supposed to be a kid with a repeating blaster. Good for him. Kids and machine guns. Ask Father Christmas if he's got one. Can I have a machine gun so I can scare all the kids on the street? All right. Last blister pack to open. These are Imperial 0G Stormtrooper Space Troopers. Now I have two of these original when I first had the game, and they came with 4 arms each, and I thought they were all supposed to have 4 arms, but that's not the case. But you had optional arms. So of the 2 I still have left, other than these, only one of them has an arm. So I figured I bought this one again, knowing with the 4 arms I can actually have all 4 of the minis have the appropriate number of arms. I made custom bases for them, which I'll show you in another video. But let's take a look at these. These are multi-part figures. These are not the slender space troopers as depicted in the Thrawn trilogy. You can see there's two different poses there. There's more wide-legged ones with the blaster cannons tucked back. This one, these, you can sort of see them here. Yep. Those little turrets, they're pop-out blaster cannons. And they have like fusion cutters and claws on their hands. You can see there's not that much in the way of flashing. It needs to be shaved down a couple spots, but they're pretty clean. Anyway, these are the heavy. These suits are really heavy duty. They're obviously a full environment suit, so they can't be affected by things like poison gas or hallucinogens or whatever. They have extra sensors to cut through smoke, but they can fly, at least in 0G, obviously, and they give like the normal Stormtrooper armor gives a +1 to strength rolls, and you roll your strength to resist shooting or close combat damage. There's their arms. These give a +3 with only a -1 to their agility because they're like a full power armor suit. These are consequently the most costly non-force using Imperial units in the game, and the 0G Stormtroopers, it tells you, are considered the best troops in the galaxy, at least according to the Empire. So I'm going to open this Stormtrooper set. This one is a box set. I think there's 10 troops in here. Now, when I open this, and you're going to see that I got this from Noble Knight Games too. It says they're partially painted. Right? I didn't paint them, obviously, and they didn't come painted from West End Games. These were just reboxed by some other fellow who sold his set. And I was lucky enough to get it. You can see West End Games Grenadier models, 10-piece metal figure set in 25mm scale for collecting and gaming. Nothing on the back. Look at the box. All right. Now the interesting stuff. Let's see. This is my okay. So it comes with an insert. All right. Shows you what they look like. It's sculptors. You see that? Bob Charette, Julie Guthrie. They seem familiar. Creative consultants Stephen Crane and Bill Slavicek. Bill Slavicek was involved in Alternity as well. He was also the main writer of the original writer, I think, of the Star Wars game. Stephen Crane wrote the not the Red Badge of Courage. Stephen Crane. He wrote the Imperial Entanglements book here. Oh, that's very nice. Look at that. Stormtroopers, encased in protective armor and wielding the most powerful personal weapons available. Oh, there's even special rules for them. Combined fire. This is for the role-playing game, but and there's their standard character sheets. You can see their dexterity is reduced because of the armor. They still have 4D blasters. That's for role-playing game stats, of course. The strength is increased for damage, but only for damage checks in terms of resisting damage because of the armor, obviously. This nice little foam insert, and okay. See them. Well, they're not terrible. They're not fully painted. Here's one that's, oh, hey, that one's not too bad. Hey, I always like that if I don't have to do too much work on one. That one's, now it's very glossy. I like mine, but the black's in all the right spots. I might just hit that with a contrast white to dull it, and then put some sepia wash to do a bit of weathering on them. This is an interesting pose I don't have before. It's actually like aiming. He's like walking with a rifle at the ready, but not aiming at anything. Here's one sort of doing a rushed gangbanger. Pow, pow, pow. Shouldn't do that with a carbine. But
Empire's Elite Troops. So I can say here's another pretty decently painted one. Yeah, that's good. I like that I don't have to completely redo these. He's blaster at ready, standing guard, maybe standing behind cover. Let me move that out of the way. There you go. There's another painted one. Another one standing at ready. Cool. I like that these have different poses that I don't have before, mostly. Here's a kneeling one. I don't have any kneeling ones either. Great. So far, these are all poses I don't have. See, there's a lot of Stormtrooper poses. Kneeling and aiming. Awesome. This one I do have. Advancing with carbine at the ready. Here's kneeling ready. Very cool. I don't have that one either. Here's your support weapon, your medium repeating blaster, or light repeater, whatever it is. I do have this pose that you saw, advancing it ready. And, oh, here's another painted one. Nice. Pretty good. Yeah, so there's 4 figures in here. I just got to weather a bit and dulled down because they're glossy. I don't really have to do, I don't even know that I'll have to strip the other ones. See how they look. I do have to base them, but that's great because I've been waiting to open this pack for a long time, but that's, hey, very happy about that. I'll have to do a bit more panel lining on them, accentuate it, but they look good. Thank you, sir or madam, whoever painted these. All right, so that's the unboxing video. That's a quick rundown of the miniatures game. It probably I have no idea how long this video actually turned out to be, but I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're able to sit down and relax and take a load off while listening to me talk. And thank you for watching the video. I do appreciate it. I appreciate you, people who still check out the community tab and so forth. Keep up with my announcements. I do have some more different videos coming up. I'll try to record some more of my games, but some interesting Conflict 47 stuff to talk about. I want to talk about Heavy Gear Blitz, which I've started a Southern Republic army in. You guys know about Heavy Gear, which is another role-playing game and a war game. I got into that at the con, so I'll show you, hopefully, when I finish painting them. A very nicely painted mech and tank army. That's a 12mm game, but close enough to 15mm you won't notice. I'm going to talk about Xenos Rampant. If you've been watching our friend Mr. Wargaming's channel, you probably know all about that, but we'll start to get to that. I want to talk about Silver Bayonet and Napoleonics. I bought some nice, pretty well painted Napoleonic armies last con. And a few other games probably. I like to tell people about these other games that they're probably not playing. If I know a lot of you know about the, you've heard of Xenos Rampant, you've heard of the Dragon Rampant and so forth games, and but a lot of people who just maybe found this channel because of my Anti-Games Workshop video, and all they know about or the so they know Warhammer, or they know Bolt Action, or whatever. But there are other games out there, and there's no reason you can't play multiples or take bits and pieces from each one and make a game that is better suited to your taste, or to maybe you don't have 4 hours to play, so you want to play a game that takes an hour or 2 hours. So we'll be talking more about some of those games, and I also want to do a video on miniature wargaming and hobby magazines and why you should subscribe to them. So stay tuned for that. I also have an interesting video that has nothing to do with hobby gaming, but I will think will help with parents in a certain situation. More on that at a later time. One final announcement: I have mentioned the HMGS cons. I have been nominated actually to the board of directors of the Historical Miniature Gaming Society. So I was going to read my party. It's not party. It's me. My office platform. Tell you why you should vote for me if you're a member. But although my nomination has been announced, they haven't officially posted the platform, so I don't want to jump the gun on them. Had to go through a background check and a credit check. It's very, very serious business. It's like kind of like getting a national security clearance, which is, you know, good. They want reputable people. They want people who are not scumbags in the organization, and that's good for them. People responsible with money because they manage money too. But you know, I'll have more to say about that, and I want to encourage those of you who know about HMGS to come visit our conventions, and also if you're not a member, sign up. Historicon is coming up in July. I'm going to run at least one Star Wars game there, and I might run also another Conflict 47 game. I ran a K-47 game last time. It was very fun, and so I want you guys. I hope to see you there, and I also encourage you to become members so you can vote for me. All right, that's all I have. Again, happy Easter. Christ is risen. Attention Span Labs out.